Christmas Eve, mail-order bride slept hungry, until the cowboy said, "Get up. You're coming home." By Christmas Eve, Eleanor Whitcomb had learned the sound of hunger. It was a quiet ache, a hollow whisper beneath her ribs that never quite left. She sat on the frozen ground with her back against a rough wooden wall, snowflakes melting in her hair, clutching a thin cloth bundle that held everything she owned. The lantern beside her flickered weakly, as if even the flame was tired of trying. She had crossed an ocean on hope alone. The letter had promised warmth, security, and a future, a rancher seeking a wife, a man of good character, a new beginning in America. Eleanor had believed it because believing was easier than staying behind in a world that had already taken too much from her. But when she arrived, the man never came. No explanation. No apology. Just silence and cold. And so she waited. The town had settled into Christmas. Windows glowing, laughter spilling into the night, but Eleanor sat outside the boarding house that had turned her away once her coins ran out. She had eaten nothing since morning. Pride kept her from knocking on doors. Shame kept her still. Footsteps broke the silence. She looked up and saw a man walking down the snow-covered street, leading a white horse and a covered wagon. He moved with purpose, lantern swinging from his hand. Inside the wagon, 4 children peeked out, their faces pink with cold and wonder. The man wore a battered hat and a coat worn thin at the elbows, but his eyes were steady and kind. He noticed her then. Most people did not. He slowed, then stopped altogether. The horse snorted softly. The children whispered. "Ma'am," the man said, his voice low and gentle. "You all right?" Eleanor swallowed. "I will be," she answered, though her voice trembled. His gaze dropped to the bundle in her arms, to her bare hands reddened by the cold. He didn't ask questions. Instead, he set the lantern down and shrugged off his coat. "Get up," he said, not unkindly, but firmly. "You're coming home." She stared at him, disbelief flashing into fear. "Sir, I think you're mistaken." He shook his head. "No, I ain't." The children climbed down from the wagon, offering shy smiles. One of them pressed a small mitten into Eleanor's hand. Something inside her broke then, pride, maybe. Or despair. Tears slid silently down her cheeks as she stood, knees weak, and accepted the coat around her shoulders. The cowboy helped her into the wagon. "Name's Thomas Reed," he said. "This here's my family. And tonight, you're ours." The ride was quiet at first. Snow fell heavier, blanketing the world in white. Eleanor listened to the children talk about Christmas, about bread and stew and a pine tree they decorated with scraps of ribbon. The words felt unreal, like a story meant for someone else. At the ranch, warmth wrapped around her like an embrace. The smell of soup made her dizzy. Thomas's sister, Margaret, ushered her inside without a word, pressing a bowl into her hands. Eleanor ate slowly at first, then with gratitude she could not hide. Later, by the fire, Thomas finally asked, "What brought you here, Eleanor?" She told him everything. The letters. The promise. The abandonment. Silence filled the room when she finished. Thomas stared into the fire, jaw tight. "I've seen men do cruel things," he said. "But leaving a woman alone on Christmas Eve, that takes a special kind of coward." Eleanor expected pity. What she didn't expect was resolve. "You can stay," Margaret said simply. "As long as you need." Days turned into weeks. Eleanor learned the rhythm of the ranch, the early mornings, the laughter at supper, the quiet prayers before bed. She worked alongside Margaret, helped with the children, and slowly, the hunger inside her faded, not just for food, but for belonging. One evening, as snow drifted softly outside, Thomas handed her a letter. "I wrote this," he said, awkward as a boy. Didn't know how else to say it. Her hands shook as she read. It wasn't a proposal. It was an invitation, to choose, freely. To stay not out of need, but out of want. Tears filled her eyes again, but this time they were warm. I already chose, she whispered. That spring, the town gathered beneath open skies as Eleanor became Eleanor Reed, not because she had been bought or rescued, but because she had been seen. Truly seen. Years later, Eleanor would tell her children that Christmas Eve wasn't about miracles falling from the sky. It was about people choosing kindness when it cost them something. About a cowboy who stopped when others passed by. About a hungry woman who learned that home isn't a place. It's a promise kept. And every Christmas, as the lanterns glowed and snow kissed the windows, Eleanor remembered the night someone said, "Get up, you're coming home," and meant it with his whole heart.